Okay, anyhow, welcome.
Welcome.
Day 156, reading through the Bible in a year. I'm Eric, and glad you joined us.
It's a beautiful spring day.
Yeah, go ahead, you can read.
Okay, we're starting in Second Chronicles, and we're going to read from 23, and I'm just going to open with a brief prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for this beautiful spring day. It's a lovely Sunday. Thank you for our family of believers that we worship with this morning, for your spirit and your presence there. Thank you for the love they have of you and they have of others. Bless us as we seek to be good neighbors and good children of God. Bless us as we read your word also. And bless everyone who hears and follows along. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. And in the 7th year, Jehoiada strengthened himself and took the captains of hundreds, Azariah the son of Jeroham, and Ishmael the son of Jehoanah, and Azariah the son of Obed, and Masirah the son of Adiah, and Elishaphat the son of Zichri, into the covenant with him. And they went about in Judah, and gathered the Levites out of all the cities of Judah, and the chiefs of the fathers of Israel, and they came to Jerusalem. And all the congregation made a covenant with the king in the house of God. And he said unto them, Behold, the king's son shall reign as the Lord hath said of the sons of David. This is the thing that ye shall do: a third part of you entering on the Sabbath of the priests of the Levites shall be porters of the doors. And the third part shall be at the king's house, and a third part at the gate of the foundation, and all the people shall be in the courts of the house of the Lord. But let none come into the house of the Lord, save the priests, and they that minister of the Levites. They shall go in, for they are holy. But all the people shall keep the watch of the Lord, and the Levites shall compass the king round about, every man with his weapons in his hand, and whosoever else cometh into the house, he shall be put to death. But be ye with the king when he cometh in, and when he goes out. Verse 8.
The Levites and all the men of Judah did just as Jehoiada, the priest, ordered. Each one took his men, those who were going on duty on the Sabbath and those who were going off duty, for Jehoiada the priest had not released any of the divisions. Then he gave the commanders of units and hundreds and spears of hundreds of a hundred, the spears and the large and small shields that had belonged to King David, and that they were in the temple of God. He stationed all the men, each with his weapon on his hand, around the king, near the altar of the temple, from the south side to the north side of the temple. Jehoiada and his sons brought out the king's son, and put the crown on him. They presented him with a copy of the covenant, and proclaimed him king. They anointed him and shouted, Long live the king! Then Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and cheering the king. She went to them at the temple of the Lord. She looked, and there was the king, standing by his pillar at the entrance. The officers and the trumpeters were beside the king, and all the people of the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets, and singers and musical instruments were leading the praise. Then Athaliah tore her robe and shouted, Treason! Treason! Jehoiada the priest sent out the commanders of units and of hundreds, who were in charge of the troops, and said to them, Bring her out between the ranks, and put to the sword anyone who follows her. For the priest had said, Do not put her to death at the temple of the Lord. So they seized her as she reached the entrance of the horse gate in the palace ground, and there they put her to death.
Verse 16. And Jehoiada made a covenant between him and between all the people and between the king, that they should be one with the Lord's people. Then all the people went to the house of Baal, and brake it down, and broke his altars and his images in pieces, and slew Mathan, the priest that bowed before the altars. Also Jehoiada appointed the offices of the house of the Lord by the hand of the priests, the Levites, whom David had distributed in the house of the Lord to offer the burnt offerings of the Lord, as it is written in the law of Moses, with rejoicing and with singing, as it was ordained by David. And he set the porters at the gates of the house of the Lord, that none which was unclean in anything should enter in. And he took the captains of the hundreds, and the nobles, and the governors of the people, and all the people of the land, and brought them down, the king, from the house of the Lord. And they came through the high gate into the king's house, and set the king up on the throne of the kingdom. And all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet. And after that, they had slain Athana with the sword. The women were very bold back there, and they really meddled in politics, didn't they? Chapter 24.
Joash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 40 years. His mother's name was Zibiah. She was from Beersheba. Joash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all the years of Jehoiada the priest. Jehoiada chose 2 wives for him, and he had sons and daughters. Sometime later, Joash decided to restore the temple of the Lord. He called together the priests and Levites and said to them, "Go to the towns of Judah and collect the money due annually from all Israel to repair the temple of your God. Do not do it now." But the Levites did not act at once. Therefore the king summoned Jehoiada the chief priest and said to him, "Why haven't you required the Levites to bring in from Judah and Jerusalem the tax imposed by Moses, the servant of the Lord, and by the assembly of Israel for the temple of the testimony?" Now the sons of that wicked woman, Athaliah, had broken into the temple of God and had used even its sacred object for the Baals. At the king's command, a chest was made and placed outside at the gate of the temple of the Lord. A proclamation was then issued in Judah and Jerusalem that they should bring to the Lord the tax that Moses, the servant of God, had required of Israel in the desert. All the officials and all the people brought their contributions gladly, dropping them into the chest until it was full. Whenever the chest was brought in by the Levites to the king's officials, and they saw that there was a large amount of money, the royal secretary and the officers of the chief priest would then come and empty the chest carefully to take it to its place. They did this regularly and collected a great amount of money. The king and Jehoiada gave it to the men who carried out the work required for the temple of the Lord. They hired masons and carpenters to restore the Lord's temple, and also workers in iron and bronze to repair the temple. Verse 13.
So the workmen wrought, and the work was perfect by them. And they set the house of God in his state, and strengthened it. And when they had finished it, they brought the rest of the money before the king Jehoiada, whereof they made vessels of the house of the Lord, even vessels to minister, and to offer withal, the spoons and the vessels of gold and silver. And they offered burnt offering in the house of the Lord continually all the day of Jehoiada. Verse 15.
Now Jehoiada was old and full of years, and he died at the age of 130. He was buried with the kings in the city of David, because of the good he had done in Israel for God and his temple. After the death of Jehoiada, the officials of Judah came and paid homage to the king, and he listened to them. They abandoned the temple of the Lord, the God of their fathers, and worshipped Asherah poles and idols. Because of their guilt, God's anger came upon Judah and Jerusalem. While the Lord sent prophets to the people to bring them back to him, and though they testified against them, they would not listen. When the Spirit of God came upon Zechariah, son of Judah, Jehoiada, the priest, he stood before the people and said, "This is what God says. Why do you disobey the Lord's commands? You will not prosper, because you have forsaken the Lord. He has forsaken you." Well, that long was telling an awful lot.
I know. Okay, verse 22. Thus Joash the king remembered not the kindness which Jehoiada his father had done to him, but slew his son. And when he died, he said, "The Lord look upon it and require it." And it came to pass at the end of the year that the host of Syria came up against him, and they came to Judah and Jerusalem and destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people, and sent all the spoil of them into the king of Damascus. For the army of the Syrians came with a small company of men, and the Lord delivered a very great host into their hand, because they had forsaken the Lord, God of their father. So they executed judgment against Joash. And when they were departed from him, for they left him in great disease, his own servants conspired against him for the blood of the sons of Jehoiada, the priest, and slew him on his bed, and he died. And they buried him in the city of David, but they buried him not in the sepulchre of the kings. And these are they that conspired against Jobab, the son of Shemaiah, and Ammoni, Tus, and Jehoazabad, the son of Shimrith, Moabitus. Verse 27.
The account of his sons and many prophecies about him, and the accord of the restoration of the temple of God were written in the annotations in the book of the kings. And Amaziah his son succeeded him as king.
And I'm going to go ahead and start what he's looking at. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he purges it, and it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. You can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. And a man gathers them and casts them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it will be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. As the Father hath loved me, so I have loved you. Continue ye in my love. And if ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments, and abide in his love. These things I have spoken unto you. Oh, so where was I? These things I have spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my commandment, that ye love one another, as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends, and if you do whatever I command you, henceforth I call you not servant, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord does, but I have called you friend. For all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. Verse 16.
Verse 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. And the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. This is my command. Love each other. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong if you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. Remember the words I spoke to you. No servant is greater than his master. If they persecute me, they will persecute you also. If they obeyed my teaching, they will obey yours also. They will treat you this way because of my name, for they do not know the one who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not be guilty of sin. Now, however, they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father as well. If I had not done if I had not done among them what no one else did, they would not be guilty of sin. But now they have seen these miracles, and yet they have hated both me and my Father. But this is to fulfill what is written in their law. They hated me without reason. When the counsel comes, when the counselor comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth, who goes out from the Father, he will testify about me, and you also must testify, for you have been sent with me from the beginning.
And thus ends the readings for today. Very interesting stuff. Thanks for joining us today. Be blessed, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Father in heaven, we pray your blessing upon each and every one who tunes in.